Sure. Danny, you said at the weekend that the players haven't switched off, but what have you said to them after that 2-0 defeat?
Well, I think we always follow the same process, whether we win, lose or draw. We always review the game, watch it back 2 to 3 times, try to gain a really good understanding of what went well, and as happened on Friday, what didn't go so well, and try to learn from it. And then it's always about speaking to the players, looking back at the game with them. We did that this time in departments, and looked at areas that we could have improved on, and you try to take learning from it. And you obviously prefer to learn when you win. It's much more enjoyable, much less painful. But on Friday night we had to learn from our mistakes, and we've tried to do that.
You also spoke there about the impact dropping down a division can have on a player's career. You know, decreasing wages and not being in a stronger position to negotiate deals if they're moving on, for instance, as well. With that in mind, like, is there a fear factor that creeps in when you're in this kind of situation that's inhibiting for the players?
Well, our players care. There's absolutely no doubt about that. We've got a really good group. We've got some really good senior professionals. We've got a lot of younger players that are trying to make their way and live in the Championship for the first time. And we all desperately want to stay in the Championship. And naturally, when you're in this moment, you know, we've been in it all season, and obviously it's been a prolonged season because of the circumstances. So you live with it every day naturally, and without doubt there's a nervousness and an anxiety, and we've got to try to clear the players' minds and create an atmosphere that allows the players to play freely, and that's obviously what we're trying to do.
How do you do that then as well when you have effectively got something to lose? Because when you look at it and you put perspective on it, you had 1 point after 8 games of the season, now on 47, and survival is in your own hands.
Well, this is it. 1 point after 9, 2 after 10. Yeah, it was always going to be a really tough challenge. We anticipated that when we arrived. Nothing surprised me. I knew exactly how tough it was going to be. And yeah, I think, in answer to your question, is speaking to the players. For this group, there's not sort of one collective psychology. I think all the players are all individuals and all need different things, and some need you to put an arm around them and sit with them and try to help them with their game and remind them of why they've managed to get themselves to this level. Others, you need to some need a cuddle, you need to strangle, and it's just this is always football management. I think the art of man management is trying to say the right thing, but also very important is saying it at the right time. And you're always looking at your players, and the better you understand them, the better you can make the right decisions as to what to say and when to say it. And for me, that is the art.
But this is a position, Danny, when you came in, that you would probably have taken it, isn't it? The fact that survival is in your own hands.
Absolutely, yeah. I think if when we had arrived mid-September, if you'd said to me that with 3 games to go, it's on our terms, then we would have cut our right arm off. So we are in that position. We have 3 games to go. We understand the significance of the games. We know how much it means to the club and particularly the supporters. And our supporters have been brilliant. And of course, at the moment they're frustrated and they're nervous and they're anxious. It's really hard to be a football supporter, by the way, at the moment, isn't it? Because we had really good home form at John Smith Stadium prior to lockdown. We've come back since lockdown without them, and we haven't been able to get anywhere near our levels at home. now, they must feel themselves that they can't contribute at the moment, and it's almost, the club that they care so much for, they can't do anything to help, and that must be incredibly frustrating for them. So I really feel for them, and it lives with us every day. Football is always about the supporters, and Huddersfield Town is about the Huddersfield Town supporters, and it lives with me every day, that knowing that how much it means to them, and we share that with the players, and I think that's important to do. We have a real responsibility for the people of Huddersfield to put 3 really good performances together, and what we have to do is put all of our focus into what we can affect, and that's the present, and that's the game tomorrow evening against Sheffield Wednesday.
I mean, you'd obviously want to see a response anyway, but the fact that it is Sheffield Wednesday makes it perhaps even a bigger occasion, does it?
Well, I think it's a Yorkshire derby, isn't it? So I don't know if it can get any bigger because it's a derby, because it's a massive game in all of our lives, and in the football club's life. And yeah, we're looking forward to that. I love football, and personally worked really, really hard to get to this place, and I haven't come this far to only come this far. So, and all of our players are the same. They care, and they were really hurt off of the back of Friday. We didn't get to our levels in an important game. We have to credit the opponent who strangled us and made it very difficult for us. But I've watched their behaviours over the last 48 hours, and I know they're a group that care deeply and want to perform. And ultimately, it's about actions now, isn't it? Unfortunately today I can only use words because there's no game, but people only care about the actions, and it's about us now putting our care, putting the frustrations and the disappointment of the performance on Friday, keeping it really close and using it to fuel us and using it to drive us, and ensuring that we put in a performance that we know we're capable of doing.
And just finally from me, Danny, I suppose the added twist is that Sheffield Wednesday could still face a points deduction. So that again sums up the importance of 3 points for both sides.
Well, yeah, I don't want to comment on another club and their situation. For us, it's just putting our focus into Huddersfield Town and what we can affect, and control the controllables, as they say, and that's what we'll be trying to do. We played Sheffield Wednesday. It was our first game actually, back in mid-September, and we feel that we've come a long way. Not the results haven't always shown that, but we feel as a group we've come a long way, and we'll be trying to prove that come tomorrow evening.
Danny, we know that you're a pretty open and honest bunch after games, and that you sit down with the players and you talk through the game. Was it a time for open and honest conversations from the players?
I think we try to stay consistent. We don't get too high when we win, and we try not to get too low when we lose. We accept that we took a lot of criticism. I think the boys feel that. We understand, it was fair game. For me, we didn't get to our levels. We have to take the criticism. I have to take it. The players have to take it. Does it help us? For me, it doesn't matter if you support me or doubt me. Either way, you inspire me, and we're focused on trying to put the wrongs of Friday night right, and that's the great thing about sport. When success doesn't always happen in a straight line, and Huddersfield Town over recent years have had more disappointment than success. That's the truth. But when you do get knocked down, you have a decision to make, don't you? You either stay down and let people trample all over you, or you get up, pin your shoulders back, and you fight again, and that's what we intend to do.
You've used a word there that I think the fans probably want to hear more than anything, which is that the players feel the hurt that the fans are going through right now. And you know, we heard the criticism after the game, and it was very clear from my perspective that they didn't feel that the players care at this moment in time.
Yeah, I understand. Football's an emotional game. Emotion after games, particularly when teams lose, is always high, and people will make comments and judgments off the back of that emotion. That's natural. That happens, and we understand that. I always try to say it honestly. I think, you know, you can accuse me of many things, but you can't accuse me of not fronting up and telling the truth. And if I thought the players weren't trying, I'll be the first to tell you, don't worry about that. I could promise you that, because there's some things for me that are acceptable and there's some things for me that are completely unacceptable. But this group, I promise you, care. And they're trying really hard. Maybe one or two are short of a little bit of confidence and a little bit of rhythm for one reason or another. Don't confuse that with them not trying or not caring, because I promise you they care. And I would never pick anybody. Don't forget, this is all of our lives at stake. Don't think I would pick anyone who I didn't think cared or had Huddersfield Town at heart. And I think you've probably seen from my decisions in the past that if I did think that, then I wouldn't pick them. In fact, they wouldn't be anywhere near the group, because, you know, for me, running around trying hard is a prerequisite.
From a footballing perspective alone, is it time for changes, maybe wholesale changes ahead of tomorrow's game, or is consistency key still?
Well, I think the games are coming thick and fast, aren't they? So they're coming very, very quickly. You're trying to pick the team that has the best balance to play against Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously, the opponent is always different, so you have to try to pick the right team for the given opponent. You're also having to consider where the players are physically and where the players are mentally, and where the players are in terms of their form. And you make decisions off of the back of all of those variables. And the aim is always to try to pick the best team, and that's obviously what we try to do.
Do you then look at your team selection based on, you mentioned the word lack of confidence there, do you have to protect some of the players maybe who are lacking confidence in this moment in time?
I think you're always trying to protect your players, aren't you? You know, I've got real belief in the players as footballers and most importantly as human beings. And I believe in this group. We've had some that haven't quite been able to get to the levels that they were playing at maybe prior to the lockdown. And you try to help the players through that. That's our responsibility. And for some, like I said, it's about sitting down with them, trying to show them clips and show them ways of being able to affect games more positively. For some, it's about trying to get on the training ground and rehearse and practice key parts of their game. For others, sometimes it's giving them a little bit of space. So you just have to you have to know the individual and try to make the right decision as to what the person needs, and that's always what we try to do.
How do you get Carlin Grant back involved and scoring again, particularly from open play?
Well, Carlin will always be a very, very important player to us. You know, his goal record speaks for itself. And I actually think that the rest of the group have got to help Carlin as well, because, you know, I think there's an argument to say we're over-reliant on Carlin's goals. And he's, you know, we had a good conversation again yesterday. He's trying really hard. He's making lots of runs. The thing with Carlin, you have to admit, it hasn't always been easy for him, his life. He hasn't had it all easy. He's had to fight really hard to get to this point. And he's done remarkably well over recent years. And football. Success doesn't always happen in that straight line. It just doesn't happen like that. We all have moments and periods where things don't go as well as we would like them to, and when that happens, you have to find a way. And luckily for Carlin, in recent times, he's gone from one success to the other, and he's been riding the crest of a wave. And it hasn't all gone for him since we've been back from lockdown. Some of that's not his fault. Sometimes we've had to, because of where the group were, played him out of position, and that hasn't helped him. We're now able to get him into his favoured position, and he's a top player. He's got unbelievable quality. He's the best finisher that we've had the pleasure of working with, and we have so much confidence in him as a boy. And all he has to do is keep working. He knows that football is an honest game, and if you're honest with it, then football will repay you accordingly.
You mentioned there as well that the other players maybe around him then have to step up and take on that goal scoring responsibility. Do you think you're a team at this moment in time, given the lack of goals in recent games, that have forgotten how to score a goal?
No, I actually think that, if you look back on the games, you go back to even Nottingham Forest, we actually, after the Nottingham Forest game, we'd created more chances in that game than any away game this season. I think our expected goals was nearly 3. We then had our most expected goals in the Birmingham game, which is the next game, where we created an awful lot of chances, about 2 of them being penalties as well, but still had over 4 as expected goals. So we've created chances in both of those games. We didn't create as much against Preston. We then created some really good moments in the Reading game, and then we played a Luton team who sat very deep in a 4-5-1 formation, and ultimately we didn't move the ball quick enough. Consequently, our attacking players lost their positional discipline and started to come above the opposing team's midfield, and then we got further and further away from the goal, and we had an awful lot of possession, but not enough penetration in our play, and we accept that. We just had to be more patient than we were, and we played a Luton team that had to win the game, and if we'd have stayed patient in it and kept moving the ball, they would have tired, and we would have found a way to break through eventually. Unfortunately, we come out after half time. Their first shot at our goal was a deflection to go for the corner, and then we let a really soft goal in. And when you do that in these games, it then becomes even more difficult, and that's what happened in the game. And you can accuse players of not trying, but you'd be wrong. Sorry, you'd be wrong. It's not the truth. The truth was that we, like I said, didn't move the ball quick enough and lacked some positional discipline in our organised attack. And when you let a soft goal in and you can't quite find maybe an ugly goal, which would be nice every now and again, then you lose these tight games.
With these players, how important is it that you get the first goal in the game?
Well, I think in the history of football, the stats don't lie, do they? I think 80% of teams that score the first goal go on to win. So we know the first goal is important, but we also believe we have the resilience and determination, if we don't find the first goal, that we can turn it around. And you have to believe that. I know that the club had a difficult time when they conceded the first goal in the Premier League. I understand that it's hard to come back in the Premier League, particularly when you're a smaller club. But in the Championship, there's always opportunities in games to get back into them. But absolutely, yeah, if we could score the first goal, I think if you look at it statistically again, when we score the first goal, we often can find the second goal and then the third goal. For us, the first goal is always the hardest one to find.
You mentioned the Premier League there. There is a sense that this, and I know at the start of the season we talked about there being a bit of a hangover from the Premier League days. With so many players having come and gone since then, is it still a continuation of that, or is this something different?
I'd rather focus on the here and now. I wasn't here in a Premier League period, so it's hard for me to comment on that. There was definitely a hangover when we arrived. There's no hiding place from that. People had been severely affected by the experiences, which is what happens to human beings. The good thing is that some of our players have been through relegation battles before and had positive experiences coming through relegation battles as well. So they've experienced probably both ends. You know, in the first season, Premier League One, you were able to survive. In the second season, unfortunately, we got relegated. But we have an experience of living it, which I think can be helpful. I want to live in the present. I don't want to live what happened previously, and I don't want to look too far into the future, because I don't think either is good for us at the moment. I think we've got to live right here in the present, and we've got to put all of our energies and our focus into Sheffield Wednesday. And we've shown as a team, you know, we can win football matches at this level. We've lost football matches for sure, but we've shown when we perform well, we can win football matches at this level. And we have belief that, you know, we're three games to go. You know, we unfortunately lost against Luton, but we expect to find a win in the next 3 games.
Have you looked back on some of those performances, those positive performances, with the players to remind them what they're capable of?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we've spent some time looking at 1 or 2 of our games and doing some individual bits with players just to remind them of what makes them so valuable to the team. And sometimes for the players to see that, it's just a trigger. They're obviously capable of it, but sometimes it's just the trigger that they need. You know, confidence is a very fragile thing, particularly, you know, in life, but particularly in football. And you've always got to try to manage the players' confidence. And for me, the players that I've had that are the most confident never get too high when they do well, but likewise don't get too low when things don't go as well. They have an ability to be able to stay really level, and then they don't expend too much energy. And actually they're able to do that because they believe in their abilities at the relevant level that they're playing at, and that is that is so important. You know, definitely you have to try to educate the young players to be able to do that, because the young players tend to be a little bit more want to live on that roller coaster, but it's not a healthy place to live for a sportsman.
You mentioned last week that some of the senior players had a bit of a rallying cry to and helped out some of the younger players by talking about their previous experiences. Has that happened again, or is it just always a case of your senior pros getting involved?
No, I think we're all in it together, and we're all fighting for the same cause. We all care deeply, you know. Like I said, you can criticise us for many things, but it's not for not trying. It's not for not working hard, for not preparing the team as well as we can, for the players giving everything they've got. You can't fault us in those areas. You can fault us for not being good enough at times, which I think is the truth. But you can't fault us for the other qualities, because it wouldn't be fair. And yeah, no, I don't think, you know, the meeting that we had after the Nottingham Forest game, I don't think it's a meeting that you can have every week. I don't think that would hold the same effect. But you're always trying to find different ways of galvanising the group. And what we've done well as a group this season is, when we have had disappointment, we've always found a way to respond. And, you know, everyone will be talking about outcomes and thinking about outcomes. It's our responsibility to stay in the moment and focus on the process and try to get the performance right come tomorrow evening.
Yeah, I was going to say that if you look back at your previous record, I wrote a piece this morning saying the same, that previously you have tended to respond well after your sort of your worst performances. Are you confident that that can happen again tomorrow night?
Absolutely. You know, for us, we haven't been anywhere near as consistent as I'm used to my teams being. There's many reasons for that. Ultimately, it's why we are where we are in the league. The best players and the best teams always find a level of consistency, and we haven't been able to find that. So when you can't find that, you have to be really good at getting up off the canvas, and yeah, that's what we always try to do. And we have a process that we use, and it's an important process to us. And we never ever, you know, it'd be very easy when the games are coming as thick and fast as they are to just brush things under the carpet and just move on to the next one. But it's never the right thing to do. It's always about trying to take the learning. And, you know, we purposely haven't moaned about the schedule, but when you're playing 5 games and you start a day later than everyone else and you finish a day earlier, it makes it even tougher, you know. And you know, everyone had 15 days, some had 16 days, some had 17 days to play those 5 matches. We had 13 days. And we looked tired on Friday. It was a tired performance. The great thing now is that we've actually had an extra day recovery. So we've had an extra day to Sheffield Wednesday. So now we go into this game with a day extra recovery. They've now brought the West Brom game to the Friday again. But we still, you know, West Brom now have got 3 games in 6 days. We've got 3 games in 7 days. So over the week period, we get an extra day than West Brom. And let me tell you, physically, that is important. And what we have to do now is use that extra day recovery to benefit us and make sure that we're able to use that in our performance.
And what are the main improvements you're looking for from your side tomorrow?
Well, every game is different. You know, from the Luton game against a team that's sat in a mid to low block in a 4-5-1 formation, we didn't move the ball quick enough. We have to move the ball quicker. The home pitch has been slow. It's played slow since lockdown. You know, we've not been able to get the speed in it that we want. Maybe it's the pitch, maybe it's the supporters not being there. But we haven't been able to get that into our play. Consequently, then we didn't keep enough positional discipline in the game against Luton. Our front 5 started to come beneath the midfield and started to get frustrated, and then started to come and get on the want to help. And they think they're helping by coming down and getting the ball. But if they come and get the ball, then we've got no one at the top end of the pitch, and we become much less of an attacking threat. We didn't have enough definitive movement at the top end. And maybe that is because, you know, you need that sharpness at the top end of the pitch, and maybe we lacked that on Friday evening. Our counter attack, we had 4 or 5 counters, and bad execution, poor decision making. We didn't quite make the most of those, and we conceded a really soft goal from a set piece. So we deserve to lose. You know, you have to accept that. If you don't do well enough in the key areas of the game, then you get what you deserve. And we can all moan and groan and blame each other, or we can take our responsibility in it. And we've all got responsibility in it, by the way, every single one of us. And we can all take it, and we can learn from it. And if we do that, and we're big enough to accept the responsibility of that, and we're big enough to take the responsibility and the criticism that comes our way, then you get to move forward, and you earn the right to move forward. And tomorrow night we're going to move forward.